Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Damage Reports. This is episode 5, now with even a more grandiose opening. The Damage Reports, where we watch Star Trek from the 21st century and give you our reviews. With me, as always, is Mike. Mike, how you doing?
Hey everybody, it's Mike, and I am also watching Star Trek with James.
Yeah, here we are. And this week we watched Star Trek Lower Decks episode 5. Mike, did you watch Star Trek Lower Decks episode 5?
Yeah, I did our normal routine of watching it as soon as we could, Wednesday night,
Mm-hmm.
shortly after midnight, and this time I wasn't too angry that I stayed up and watched it. So there's a win right there.
All right. Before we go any further, why don't we go ahead and just say spoiler alert. Would you like to give what is now, I'm sure, internet famous, one of your breakdowns of Star Trek Lower Decks?
Thanks. I actually wrote this one, and
Ah,
it won't just be me rambling or thinking from memory. So, Cupid's Errant Arrow, Episode 5 of Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 1. The crew of the USS Cerritos rendezvous with the USS Vancouver in orbit around the planet Mixtus 3 to help destroy an errant moon that's threatening life on the neighboring planets. Boimler is excited about this mission because it means he can meet up with his girlfriend, Lieutenant Barbara Brinson of the Vancouver. Mariner is immediately suspicious of how perfect Brinson seems, and thanks to a bad experience she had on her last starship involving a crew being infiltrated by a shapeshifter, is determined to prove that Brinson is an alien imposter. Meanwhile, Tendi and Rutherford are tasked by the Vancouver's chief engineer to have a contest to see which of them can perform the most diagnostics on the Vancouver's engineering section. The winner will be able to transfer to the more advanced starship, while the other has to stay on board the Cerritos. Eventually, we discover that Mariner's suspicions about Boimler's relationship were valid, but it was in fact Boimler who had an alien parasite on him, causing him to be irresistible to Lieutenant Brinson, while Tendi and Rutherford realize that their transfer to the Vancouver was a ploy by that ship's chief engineer to replace him, while he would be able to have the lower stress job on the Cerritos. James, what did you think of this episode?
this is it's still not anything that's near any great Star Trek, but I did laugh twice during this episode.
As opposed
And
to the ones you said from last time.
yep, and
Okay.
they were actual, again, I the laughs I count are actual laughs where I laugh out loud. And I think this one again had a Star Trek style A plot and then a character driven B plot. And I like that. I think that's what this show needs to be. It also needs better writers. But the idea of going into a Star Trek situation, but we keep cutting back for our characters just working on themselves rather than dealing with the actual um, science fiction issue that's been brought up.
I kind of agree on that. I feel my main fault with this episode, and I think it solidified it with me why I'm having trouble with this series, is that you look at the Next Generation template, you look at anything before Discovery, and episodes were very Star Trek-y. There was a plot, and like you keep saying, there's the A plot of things, but it was all within the framework of this sci-fi plot. And then any character stuff came second. And in this series, the characters are the main focus. So when you say we have an A plot with these characters, I don't really care about the characters. I want to grow to like the characters through these Star Trek situations, but they're giving it to us in the opposite way. They're giving us the characters first and not giving us the Star Trek situations. I wouldn't care about Riker or Picard if in the very first couple seasons of Next Generation it was stories about them,
Yeah.
and then everything they went through was secondary. I want to learn about these characters through the framework of whatever challenge they're seeing that week, and
Yeah.
not seeing how they react to the challenges being, and the challenges being in the far background. Because in this one, I thought that something we've glossed over, something I glossed over in the little synopsis I wrote, because it felt like it's so much to go into, and felt like it could have been a very good plot for an episode of Next Generation. especially with what's going on in the world right now, is that they're there to help this planet survive this moon breaking up in orbit. And half of the people are saying, we don't trust it, it's fake. And the other half are saying, we don't want it to happen because it'll impact our part of the society. And that's such a rich minefield to go into. And they just didn't do anything with it.
Well, they did. I will give them this. They did do one thing. The captain of the Cerritos did something. Well, what's wrong? It's imploding a moon should be fairly easy. It's not that. And then they opened the door, and we just everything the alien said got me excited and intrigued me. And again, like
Yeah.
we've said a couple of times, talking about social issues in Star Trek, which is very Star Trek. Talk about social issues that are going on, and all of this was wonderful. Even the button of it at the end that gets revealed. So I did really like that. I wish we would have spent more time with it.
And that's why I wish they had found some way to tie in Boimler or Tandy and Rutherford's plot into that. Like that's what was strange. It felt to me like halfway through the episode, I thought it was going in a different direction. The episode is what it is, but I started thinking that the engineer was trying to get off the ship because everyone on the Vancouver had been replaced by a parasite. And he was like, the Cerritos is safe. Or the fact that the parasite wasn't deadly, that the parasite made them all overachievers, and he was an underachiever and wanted to get off. And I thought it was going to be like something like that was then revealed to have something to do with the planet. And then none of them really came together. It was so, everything that was done by our lower decks leads was incidental to the main plot. And that felt like a real shame.
Yeah, and it's also having our characters develop over different space adventures. We want to know more about them when we've seen them overcome these, great challenges or figure out these complex problems. The episode after Best of Both Worlds Part 2 is got a little bit of space stuff in it, but it's mostly Picard visiting his brother after he's been held hostage by the Borg. And for a lot of Star Trek Next Generation fans, it's an episode that takes place at a vineyard and is about two grown-ass white men trying to get over their problems to the point that it ends in a mud fight, which is probably the lowest stakes you could get. But I love that episode. And I think a lot of Star Trek fans do, because we just saw Picard go through a prisoner of war scenario that is unlike anything we know, where they rip you of everything you've got and turn you into their ultimate soldier to kill your own kind. And for him to go home and trying to process that, Star Trek has earned the right to do an episode like that, of him trying to process it. And there's going to be no space adventure. I believe there's still something going on the ship. Like while
Isn't
there's
the ship plot, Alexander is coming aboard? Like,
yeah,
Worf's parents are like, we can't handle him anymore.
Yeah, it's something real basic. And because that's not the point of the episode. The A plot of the episode is very much Picard's got to go back to being captain of the Enterprise. How do we justify that after what's happened to him?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't he in therapy for 5 years?
There's an interesting point that's been brought up recently. There's a podcast called Star Trek: The Next Conversation that I really dig. But they've pointed out, how come after the first time that Data got taken over by Dr. Soong and rerouted the ship, they weren't like, we love you, but you're going on the scrap heap. There's no way you're staying in Starfleet anymore.
Yeah, or at least you must be retired from Starfleet. You're gonna go work on, you're gonna go work on a planet and study stars.
But I mean, this was the first time that Star Trek realistically did something like that showed this adventure took this toll on Picard, and they showed he had to get over it. So it was very interesting that it did that, and I'm glad they did that as opposed to just like gloss over it like they do with Data anytime he gets taken over.
But again, so if we're looking at the lower decks, we're having all these character episodes, which is not a bad idea, I don't think, but we haven't seen them do anything. They go on the Vancouver. The captain's already a dickhead. So it's just like, so Star Trek is just dickheads. There's no good people in Starfleet anymore. That's Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine stuff. Those people died off. The next, group of people that started in Starfleet are assholes. So
I can make that canon though and make it work. The reason that Next Generation and Voyager and Deep Space Nine followed those characters is because they were nice people.
Sure.
And that's why Star Trek has been what it is.
All right.
It's there, solved it.
There you go. Well, it's like I said, this show's been the best assist to Picard ever. Is Brad Word's girlfriend an alien or a parasite or a robot designed to infiltrate the Starfleet? Is just kind of a wacky premise to do things. It almost feels like a Perfect Strangers. Like last week we had Ensign go full Steve Urkel. Like, did I do that with the transcending guy? And then this time it was kind of like, you believe something isn't true and you're just to give you a reason to go around doing silly shit. Again, is forcing herself into situations. Like, I've noticed that there's only been, I think, one episode where trouble came to her and she fixed it. And that was in the last episode. Last episode sucked, but trouble came to her and she fixed it. And if you're going to make her this badass character that even Barbara was like, you're supposed to be some badass space person. I was like, is somebody on another ship really going to know that about an ensign on another ship? Are they going to refer to them?
I'm glad you said that. That's part of my problem with the episode.
It's like, you're some badass. And I was like, no one knows the ensigns from other ships. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think about it. If you need a comparison, just look at like the military, the Navy, and would somebody who's on a crew of a ship in the Navy know a new hire or ensign that's been there for 10 years and how cool they are? No. She did last week, even though that episode sucked, was all this stuff's happened to the ship. She fixed it. Okay, cool. Now you're a badass. This week, she forced herself, just like taking the Klingon to that homeworld. She forced herself there. It seems like every episode she keeps forcing herself into a situation, and I don't see her helping. It felt like a Perfect Strangers episode. So those were my issues. That was the bad stuff for me on the show. How about you?
You're much kinder by saying Perfect Strangers, which I hold a high regard for. I was going to say it was more Saved by the Bell-ish, where it was just very simplistically cartoony and is funny. It's funny enough when you're doing a parody of it. Like if this was a Rick and Morty episode, it'd be like, okay, that's the pastiche they're going for, but they're not playing it as the joke, the situation being the joke, and it just didn't work in that way. The problem I had, again, I'll say it like I've said it for every episode, and it sounds so nerdy, and I know it takes so much work to be creating a show like this, but they're making so many references to Star Trek stuff so that the audience will laugh, but nobody knows these things. Nobody in this universe would know these things when they make all these comments about you're a salt vampire from that old Next Generation episode, or you're a Suliban, or you're this. She's listing off all these things that she could be an imposter of, and it's famous stuff from Star Trek history, but that doesn't mean that everybody in Starfleet knows these things. It's kind of frustrating that they're making the world so compact and small that everybody knows all of these things. Like you said, no one would know what an ensign on another ship does. No one gives a shit.
Yeah.
No one in Starfleet would even care. And something I haven't liked is the naming schemes of the ships, where they, at a certain point, they decided that the serial numbers on the ships were actually the number of, basically, that ships are created in order. So the NCC 1701, the Enterprise, was the 1701st ship that was created. So in doing that, the Cerritos' registry is the NCC 75567. So you're saying that there's 75,000 Starfleet ships out there, but everybody knows the exploits of Picard. Everybody knows about this one ensign on the Cerritos. it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work like that for me.
And you say, and yeah, they're doing these name drops for Star Trek fans. You and I are Star Trek fans that are pretty much catching every reference they make. Have you laughed at any of them?
No, it's honestly, it's been like, aha, that reference.
Yeah.
And I've never seen the South Park episode about the member berries, and it frustrates me when people say that online or just say that,
Yeah.
because it's like, get an original idea. But it feels like that. It's like we have to shove in a reference
Mm-hmm.
to prove that we know what we're doing, and you don't. Like, I would feel the show would be much stronger if you didn't put those in.
Yeah, member berries is a thing. People calling references out for calling references, but there's also respecting your source material and your world. If you're going to do a new Star Wars movie and it takes place in the galaxy that the Empire once ruled, blowing up planets that disagreed with them, then yeah, you might want to mention the Empire. You might want to mention,
Yeah.
space wizards that fought them, and a plucky little rebellion that fought them. It's like anybody would know that. And if you didn't know that, and what's funny is the most member berries, if you will, thing might be Force Awakens, but we even follow a lead character who doesn't know that Luke Skywalker's even real.
Yeah.
There's still, because it's what he did is so over the top ridiculous. He sounds just like a myth to her.
But you know what this does? Like, imagine if in Force Awakens, when the first X-Wing pilot goes down, if Poe Dameron had been like, God damn, I guess that's the new Porkins.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's what this feels like. You're like, what? Who?
Yeah.
If we're watching a show that's about these, like, lower rung people, why did the captain make that choice? Why was it so much on the captain? Why did none of the other characters influence that decision and have it growth? That felt very weird to me.
Well, none of we have four main characters we're following, and this week, none of them had like an arc or, did anything that helped, serve plot A or plot B. Yeah, they were just there. Like that, yeah, everything you were just saying. Oh, the aliens, some of them were like, we worship that moon, you can't just destroy it, that's our seventh most powerful god. What is it? The moon's not blowing up, that's fake, the government started it to control us. Like, having all the aliens
flat out said the government.
having all the aliens complain about trying to get what to do with the moon, and if they do nothing, they all die, but none of them are happy with it. And I didn't like the reveal of the parasite, but I did like the parasite. They put him in a jar, and it's a parasite who tries to take over its host and get anybody to fall in love with it. And so that's an interesting concept for a parasite. But how they did this was they made him a little green bug that's going, love me, kiss me, love me, like just smacking the button. I was like, all right, that is, I've never seen that in anything. So maybe ice pirates, something along that line, like some sort of weird 80s concept almost.
But see, and then that I again, going into my nitpicky, because I know you said that this was the likes, and we've said what we liked and what it could have been better. There's no way that he would have had that parasite on him for a month and no transporter biofilter would have caught it and survived. And why did no one else want to sleep with him and just this one lieutenant?
Yeah, nobody wanted to sleep with him. He's the type that wouldn't have something on him and not notice. He's that.
I really loved when he says, computer, make me an outfit of like 21st century outfits that are a mixture, and he looks like an idiot and he walks in, and then Jillian Jacobs has that line, you came in here and yeah, you look sexy as hell, but
which made me laugh. That made me laugh.
How much Tendi and Rutherford are talking crap about the Cerritos, but then they're like, yeah, but we like it here. We like that it's falling apart, and we like that we can tell how fast we're going based on how much the ship is shaking. So I enjoyed that, and hopefully that's not, if that's all they do every episode, that's going to be an issue. But I like the little arc about, yeah, we can have this new technology, but we like it here, and this is home. And I that's what I've always liked about DS9 and Next Generation, where it's like these people love their home, they love their ship, and they love what they're doing. And I think that's kind of why I never really caught on to Enterprise, because so many of them are such angry people. That's
Yeah.
another thing. She says something about, you're sexy, you're like a mixture of James T. Kirk and Trip, the guy from Enterprise. And I'm like, who the fuck would say that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That struck me hard this week. If this wasn't Star Trek, would I be watching it? And yet, like that, and the answer is no. Past
Yeah.
episode 2 or 3, I would have given it a chance. I know you said like, oh, you never got into Bob's Burgers or whatever. The first couple episodes of Bob's Burgers is fucking hilarious. Like, I didn't really care to watch it because you get older, and it's like there is a lot of great television out there in the last like 20 years. So believe it or not, man, there is. It's a
2017, I remember reading there were 550 scripted TV shows in just 2017.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you can watch all of TV anymore.
Mike, how many Darmoks out of Jalads would you give this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks?
This week's episode, Cupid's Errant Arrow, is that what it was? Gets a good solid 3 Darmoks out of 5 Jalads. I say this episode is the episode where Q took the crew to Sherwood Forest to get Picard late. Oh my God, that's what it was. That was the line in this one where someone said it's like a hopped up Q on Captain Picard Day, and it's like, come on. Yeah. Captain Picard Day was not a thing.
Yeah.
It was just for that one episode. So I'm glad that reminded me of that.
I'm going to give this a solid 2 Darmoks out of 5 Jalads. The Cytherians, I believe, is the super intelligent alien race that takes over Barclay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it's not that I like that episode, but I'm going to say it's their makeup job. It's the Cytherians' makeup job of, if we put a dollar store eyeball up here, you're an alien now. So that's what this felt like.
Those are our recommendations for this week. If you have anything you want to say to us, find us on Facebook, find us anywhere you can find us, and send us emails, and we'll talk about them in the near future. But for Star Trek Damage Reports, I am Mike.
And I am James.
And we'll see you all in the very near future. Stay COVID-free, everybody.
Yep.
Don't be like Batman.
Don't be like Batman. Don't be like The Rock. Bye, baby!
Do one of our little famous tangents. Rise of Skywalker, I feel, would have been so much stronger if they had changed the end. Lando goes around the galaxy in the Falcon and gets everybody to their cause, and everyone shows up. It's cool. It's a very unfortunate Avengers moment that it very much suffered from being the same year as Avengers.
Yeah.
But they make the whole point at the end of Last Jedi and all throughout Rise of Skywalker that the universe doesn't care anymore, that everyone has stopped giving a shit. Can you imagine if they had sent out a transmission and it was like Luke's because they say it in the movie where they go, we're getting the coordinates and it's coming from Luke Skywalker's X-Wing. That must be Rey. We need to follow it. Can you imagine if they relayed that message and all those ships show up because they got a message from Luke Skywalker's X-Wing, not Lando coming around?
Yeah.
How much powerful that would have been, where it was like, oh shit, we thought Luke died. We're showing up because Luke said we need help.
Yeah.
And just it felt like there's so many little tiny misconnections that just really, really screwed up that whole wrap up of that trilogy.
Well, it's also like you were saying, the unfortunate Avengers thing. Yeah, it is very much like the Avengers end fight. But the Avengers end fight, everybody that shows up has had screen time, a movie, a backstory, a villain, a conflicts they've overcome. Each person that comes through there has already fought 50 battles, and we've seen 10 of them. You know,
this is 10,000 like Oldsmobiles.
Yeah,
Just
like
showing
we
up.
don't know. We know Lando, and that's it. So I understand seeing all those ships in the trailer looked really cool. When it got to the moment in the movie, well, it was so God, not to continue the saying, but it was so laughable because like I've got I've got Star Destroyers, each one with a Death Star ray. Like it's just like
Dude.
why not? Why not? Let's just whatever. Let's just whatever.
Have
I've
I?
got
I don't think
8
I've talked to you
Sarlacc
about this
pits
part.
in this room. Want to come into this room? Beware. Jawas are outside. I got 15 Jawas. Like, why not just have everything Star Wars 10 times over?
We should do an entire episode just talking shit about Rise of Skywalker because there's so many points that you just said that brought up. But I want to hit the Star Destroyers on the head on that.
Okay.
They halfway through the movie, the entire movie is the fact that they need the coordinates. Basically, the main new big Star Destroyer has an antenna that's going to send every Star Destroyer out of that little like nebula that they're in so they can get out and start terrorizing the galaxy. And that sigh right there is so perfect.
Yeah, no, because
Honestly.
I'm just done already. But sorry, I'm sorry.
But
Poker face.
there's a countdown. It needs to be. They have like an hour before this antenna goes online, and then when that antenna goes online, all of these Star Destroyers are going to be able to find their way out of this nebula. So halfway through, Princess Leia dies, foils the Emperor's plan. The Emperor says, "Fuck, you know what? We need to teach the galaxy a lesson. Send out one Star Destroyer to blow up a planet that they like." And they do that, and it's like, you just sent one Star Destroyer out. Why don't you send the rest of them out one at a time?
Yeah.
If you can send one out, what are we waiting for? What is this fake countdown that we have? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like that old. You've heard that old like fallacy storytelling thing where it's like a man's in a pit and a guy comes over and he's like, or he's like, I'm stuck in a pit. If only I could go home and get a rope to climb out of here. So he goes home and gets a rope and climbs out of the hole. It's like that's exactly what happens in this huge blockbuster movie that was like the cornerstone of Disney's like 2019.
You know, you could fix everything in Last Jedi if at the end of evil speech.
Not Last Jedi. Last Jedi's fine.
So, I'm sorry.
Last
I'm sorry.
Skywalker.
Last Jedi still has issues, but
Last Jedi's fine.
It's still has issues, but yeah, the Rise of Skywalker. You could have fixed so much had characters at the end of their monologue said, "I'm not that bright." Like it's like I have 1,000 Death Stars, all with our 1,000 Death Star beams on 1,000 starships, all being controlled with one antenna I keep on the roof. I'm not that bright. And like if everybody said that at the end of their speech, then I think it'd be a better film. It'd make more sense.